The Enhanced American Express Business Gold Card is designed to take your business further. It's packed with features and benefits like flexible spending capacity that adapts to your business, 24/7 support from a business card specialist trained to help with your business needs, and so much more. The Amex Business Gold Card, now smarter and more flexible. That's the powerful backing of American Express. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/businessgoldcard.
Hey, what's going on, beautiful people? It is Wednesday, and I'm so excited for you to be here with me on another week of the Paging Dr. Shonda podcast. I don't take Wednesdays lightly. That means that you have made it halfway throughout the week. So y'all know whenever you get that notification that Dr. Shonda has a new podcast that dropped, let that be a daily reminder or a weekly reminder that I have gotten halfway through the week. Let me go ahead and listen to this episode to get me through the rest of it. I'm your host, Dr. Shonda. And listen, y'all, it's been a pleasure just being here with y'all every single week. I know I said this is a weekly podcast, but I've been kind of thinking, and I just got back from a podcast summit, so they kind of like motivated me a bit. I'm wondering if y'all would enjoy if we dropped an episode more than once a week. If so, let me know. I would love to hear back from you. If you put it inside of the comment section of the Apple reviews or Spotify reviews, or you can go ahead and DM me and let me know what you think. But you know, it's a lot of work in podcasting. I'm not going to hold you. It is a lot of work, but I'll do it if it's something that you guys will like or if you would benefit from it. So here's the format. Y'all ready? I'm thinking about doing my full show, so like the 30 minutes with myself or an hour long with a guest on Wednesdays still. So that will still drop on Wednesdays. But I wanted to add in like more like coping skills and tips and strategies throughout the week. They won't be long episodes, but maybe just like a little 5-minute drop, 6-minute drop. But y'all let me know. I want to know if y'all would benefit from that. So without further ado, I know we've been kind of doing this little trend where we've been highlighting people who have been, showing love to the podcast on our Apple Podcast ratings as well as on Spotify. So if you haven't done so already, I need you right now in this very moment to go ahead and go to the Apple Podcast app, which is right in your phone. Every single Apple device has an Apple Podcast app. I'm so surprised that so many people don't know this. I've been having to re-explain this, but if you have an iPhone, you have an Apple Podcast app. So go to the app, find the podcast, scroll down, and you'll find ratings and reviews. Leave me a 5-star rating and a good little review, and I'll give you a shout out on the pod. You can also do the same on Spotify. So let me know. Would love to feature you. So we have some brand new reviews. I've been getting a lot of reviews lately from people who just been on the listening to the pod since me being at their school, like speaking or whatever, or like events that I've been at. So let me just try and find the ones that I want to look at. Bear with me, y'all. Okay, so here's a few. I think I left off after Fine Girl A left that dope review. The real one said, love this podcast. Heart emoji. Thank you. Miss Aaliyah M said, tap in now. Thank you, girl. Dr. Shonda is amazing from Nell Bell. I love it. Pretty Love 03 says she is amazing. A32902 said they give the podcast a 100 out of 10. Thank you, beloved. I appreciate that. So I appreciate all the love y'all been showing me. Someone recently shared it in their story and they tagged me. So you guys love sharing it in your story, but sometimes y'all forget to tag me. Don't forget to tag me, y'all, because I do want to give you a shout out. But I appreciate everyone who supports the podcast. But do me a favor. If you're a millennial, or even if you're not a millennial and, you just want to show love to the podcast or share the conversation, go ahead and click on that copy link where it says the podcast episode and put that in your group chat. Share it to your family, share it to your friends, because I promise you're going to want to tune into this episode. I know for a fact that I have some 90s babies in here. I can't be the only one. I feel like I'll be talking to myself when I'll be talking about 90s stuff on TikTok, because that's like a younger app. But it's got to be people on the podcast who grew up with Nick Jr., who grew up watching Face on Nickelodeon before going to school, who grew up watching things like Gullah Gullah Island, y'all. Like, you can't be a kid who's a 90s millennial, you grew up in the 90s on Nickelodeon, and you don't know who Gullah Gullah Island is. For real. So guess what? They are my special guests for today. That's right. Mr. Ron and Miss Natalie from Gullah Gullah Island stopped by the podcast to talk about all things Gullah Gullah Island. They talked about the history of Gullah Gullah Island pertaining to the Gullah Geechee people of Florida and South Carolina, which I did not know there were some in Florida, but you guys will learn more about that. What that meant to Black kids, how it helped our self-esteem, and all those things. I can't wait for us to get into this episode. But before I go ahead and let them share, I want you to share this podcast with as many people as possible. If you're not a hater, go ahead and leave a 5-star rating and allow me to continue to provide information to the masses. All right, y'all. I can't wait for y'all to get into this episode. Let me know what you think. Hello.
Oh.
It's so great to have Mr. Ron and Miss Natalie here. I appreciate the both of you for stopping through the podcast.
Thanks for inviting us. Glad we can do it.
Yes, of course. It is such a pleasure. I'm sitting with two living legends. So it is certainly an honor to have this conversation with you. I personally grew up on Gullah Gullah Island. When you guys were on tour, I saw you in Delaware. My parents went to take us in Delaware. So it's always been amazing. I loved how you guys just put on for the culture. Everything was just, black, bliggity black, Benya was black. I could tell by the hop in his pollywog. Like, it was just amazing. It was amazing to see. So again, welcome. And we're just going to have a great conversation today.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Awesome. So if you can tell us a little bit about yourselves, just for the listeners, so they can know a little bit about your background.
Well, I was born on St. Helena Island, South Carolina, which is in Beaufort County, which is a sea island. When I was a child, Sea Islander was the word that we used, but it's known today as Gullah Geechee culture and heritage. And that heritage is from the descendants of those enslaved Africans who were brought to this community on the southeastern coast of the United States for the production of cash crops, primarily of rice. And so rice heritage is something I grew up with. And I am the 9th and last child of Henry and Kathleen Days.
Yeah, amazing. I like that because his mama, when she said she had 9 children because she didn't know how not to. And I told her, I'm glad she didn't figure it out since I got 9. So I'm Natalie. I'm actually Natalie Eldridge Days. I was raised in Central New York. But my auntie married into a Sea Island, a Gullah Geechee family, and moved her family there, including my grandma. And so a long time ago when grandma was ill, as is often with Southern families, they pick somebody to send home. They did not ask me, send down. But I was the one who was picked to go help grandma and auntie. So I told them I'll come down 2 weeks, y'all. And, it's been 40 years.
Yes.
I met Ron a few months after I got here. He is not why I stayed, but I'm glad that I did. And so he and I have been singing together and telling stories and doing this together for a long time, decades.
Amazing. It was such a pleasure just seeing your story, seeing how everything unfolded, even on a national stage, a nationally syndicated show. And I'm wondering for the both of you, like, how did that come about? Like, was it something that the show, they came to you all, or?
Well, prior to being asked to be a part of the program, I had written a book. I was writing a book at the time that Natalie and I met. It's called Reminiscences of Sea Island Heritage, where I had documented oral histories of community members I'd grown up under, their beliefs, customs, traditions, had old songs, spirituals and work songs of the community, and historical photographs from the late 1800s to 1900s. And after that book was published, we scripted it into a theatrical performance that we toured the country performing, bringing those stories to life. And it was at that time our firstborn was she was potty trained on the road. We were expecting our secondborn, and we knew that something needed to be changed. Natalie could not go into these school classrooms with the cafeterias.
Wow.
With, the smells that would be permeating. And
The Enhanced American Express Business Gold Card is designed to take your business further. It's packed with features and benefits like flexible spending capacity that adapts to your business, 24/7 support from a business card specialist trained to help with your business needs, and so much more. The Amex Business Gold Card, now smarter and more flexible. That's the powerful backing of American Express. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/businessgoldcard.
There she was expecting, and something needed to change. And it was at that time that we came in touch with Gloria Naylor. Gloria Naylor, the novelist, had written Mama Day about a fictional Gullah community. And afterwards, after the book was published, she bought a home on St. Helena Island, and we became friends. And I'll let Natalie take over.
So yeah, Gloria's a friend. She called herself, I remember when my daughter was born, and she showed up at our house with this stroller that looked like a Cadillac of strollers to us. And she said, just think of me as your rich auntie. So that was rich auntie vibes before folk were saying rich auntie. That was 30-something years ago. Right. And so we were friends. And some years later, when I was pregnant with my son, she was actually having a novel option for a movie. It never went, but she was bringing down her friend who was going to work with her on this. And she brought her friend down to St. Helena, and we went out late one night to eat cold chicken on somebody's porch, you know.
Lawrence Fishburne was to be the star and also the director of it. And the woman, as Natalie said, who was to be the executive producer of Mama Day, Disney movie. But this Disney movie never came into being. During the dinner conversation, we were asked what were our views on children's television programs, and we responded. Our daughter was 3 years old at the time, and we knew what we would like. One of the things we had hoped for children's TV was that there would be a program that our daughter would watch and not afterwards decide that she had blonde hair and blue eyes. Yes. And Maria Perez, who was to have been the executive producer of the movie, said that she and her business partner, Kathleen Minton, back in New York, were working on a television program idea that they wanted to pitch to Nick Jr., who was looking for comulticultural programming. She was from Puerto Rico. It would be about some enchanted, magical Gullah Island. This was her first time coming to a Gullah community. Would we be interested? Yeah. And we said, sure, but we had heard offers like that before from the performance that we did, and we never heard anything from those others who had told us they knew people or could do something. She said when she got back to New York, she would get in touch with her business partner and then be back in touch with us. And we said, yeah, right. But that's exactly what happened. And a creative team flew down, and they followed us around for about a week. And I'm a former newspaper reporter, so was Mr. Ron. Miss Natalie did crafts. That's what Miss Natalie does.
Yes.
Our daughter, we would entertain her because we would be traveling doing performances. And when we were home, I wanted to push her on the swing and engage with her in our home environment. And that's what the creative team saw, and that's what they produced for this fictional Gullah Island community.
The head writer at the time, Racketsville Hyman, who I love dearly to this day, after hanging out with us, he said, okay, I know you don't do TV, you just be you and we'll work around that. Mm-hmm. And that made me feel okay, because we could just be ourselves with our children. My son was born, came in there. When we met Maria Perez, I was very pregnant. And then when they said, well, come up to New York and meet the folk at Nick so we can talk about it, I was like 9 months pregnant. I said, no, not coming. And so then when Simeon was 5 weeks old, we flew north with my baby, and he's nursing. So he's got to go where mama goes. That's just
right.
It. So we were there in this meeting with all these executives at Nick Jr. And one of them, her name is Brown Johnson. She said, oh, can I hold the baby? And I handed her Simeon, and he threw up down her black suit. And I said, this is a nice trip. But we had a show before the end of the day.
Yeah,
right.
Got back on the plane.
Yeah. And it aired within a year. It was on air, and TV doesn't work like that anymore.
No.
But it was like that, and because it was grace. I my general answer as to how did this happen? It was grace. As Ron said, it was one thing traveling around the country with one child. The idea of traveling around the country in that big blue van with 2 children, and it's very good this happened because Simeon was not a good traveler.
He was not that kind of.
Yes. Simeon was a great traveler. But Simeon, he wasn't having it. So the blessing of the show happening. So he was 5 months old when we shot the pilot for the show.
Wow.
We introduced the production team to members of the St. Helena Island, the Gullah Geechee community. That's why when the Gullah Gullah Island family left our home, we visited real people who spoke a real language, who lived following these certain beliefs, who we had the Beaufort High School band, and I'm a Beaufort High School alum, to perform on the program and other community groups. And that was very exciting.
So it meant a lot, not just for the both of you, but for the entire community.
Yes.
Yeah. I still would find folks who say, oh, Miss Natalie, I was in that episode where this happened, because community just come. And like there was a shrimper who lived next door. Mr. Bradley, he really was the shrimper Ron grew up next door to.
Right.
Oh, wow.
Ranger Mike really was the park ranger out at the beach. So this was just folk.
I remember Ranger Mike.
Yeah.
Mike life. Yeah.
So y'all were reality TV before there was reality TV, like
more or less.
Yeah.
But you know good and well, in real life, if you are a parent, it takes more than 23 minutes to resolve the problem.
Right.
Yeah, very true. Very true. But I don't know. I feel like maybe if my parents would have sung me a song or, did an arts and crafts, like something, I think that it could have been resolved in 23 minutes.
Those are things that we did in real life that the production team saw and modeled for the TV Gullah Gullah Island family.
Yeah, we sang with our kids. We always did.
Right.
We sang in our house. We always did, and we still do.
Many of the songs were spirituals that the musical team more or less adapted to a more rhythmic kind of performance for a children's song. So it was great.
I remember those songs were so powerful because I can still remember some to this day.
Uh-huh.
There was a great team of musicians. Billy Coben, Peter Lurie, and Gail Sky King. She was from Barbados. So any song you got to have that kind of Barbados.
Yes.
Gail Sky King. Yeah.
I love that. I love that.
Very similar to Gullah Geechee culture and the rhythms of our music. Yes. So there was this African diasporic influence or infusion of the show. And there were numerous people around the world who respond to us today that this was the first time in their lives that they saw people who looked like them, who lived like them. And we recently visited the International African American Museum in Charleston, South Carolina, and there were many of the curatorial staff who came out, heard that we were there, and said, wanted us to know this is Gullah Gullah Island's reason that they're doing what they're doing today.
Yes. I think that really just speaks to the impact that you both had on the culture in general. It's still relevant today.
Yeah.
Genuinely. Yeah.
Very grateful. I'm grateful for Maria Perez saying, hey, maybe we can do a show about you. I really appreciate that.
Got to put in Kathleen.
And Kathleen, yes.
Because she said, okay, yes, this can be done. And I think it was Kathy Minton who she had worked with puppets before. And that's why, the excitement of Binya Pollywog, and they're asking us for cultural references.
Yes.
Binya is actually a Gullah Geechee term. I'm a Binya, and I'm not a frog or a pollywog, but someone who was born in the Gullah Geechee community who has been here, or Binya, is known as a Binya. And if you double a word in Gullah Geechee, it means very much so. You can look good, or you look good, or you look good. So Binya Pollywog supposedly has been on Gullah Island for a very long time.
I love how y'all just broke that down. Like, that's just mind blowing. I feel like I'm learning so much in this one conversation. If you all can kind of like tell us more about the Gullah Geechee people of South Carolina. I know, I know Mr. Ron, that's where you're originally from. If you could tell us more about the history.
I'm going to defer to him, but I will say that Gullah Geechee people aren't just in South Carolina. They're coastal from like northern Florida, like around St. Augustine, up to southern North Carolina. So that's Georgia coast. It's the rice producing areas of the coastal southern coastal United States.
Southeastern.
And so now I'm going to just hand that to Ron.
Well, just recently.
No, that's great information. I thought it was just in South Carolina. So
And they're descendants of people who have been born in those communities. Stretching from Wilmington, North Carolina, down throughout South Carolina, Georgia, all the way down to St. Augustine, Florida, who now live elsewhere, and they've taken their culture aspects of our heritage with them. Natalie and I just visited Ghana, West Africa. It was my second visit, and on my first visit to Ghana almost 20 years ago, as soon as the plane landed, I began to see all these people who look like my father's people. And there's Aunt so-and-so and Uncle so-and-so, and people from the St. Helena Island community. And I had DNA testing done following that visit and the subsequent year visiting Sierra Leone, where I saw people who look like my mother's people, and found out that my ancestry is from the Ewe and Akan peoples of Ghana, West Africa, and my maternal lineage is from the Temne people of Sierra Leone. Those Africans who were enslaved and brought to these communities came primarily from the Rice Coast countries, present-day Senegal, Gambia, Guinea, Guinea-Bissau, Sierra Leone, and Liberia, but also from non-rice producing countries like the Gold Coast countries of Ghana, Togo, Benin, Nigeria, and also West Central African countries, Cameroon, Gabon, Angola. That's where our ancestors hailed from. And Gullah sounds a lot like Angola, but most of the Africans who were brought to this country to produce rice came from the Rice Coast countries. And in Sierra Leone and Liberia, there are tribal groups known as the Golas and the Gizi, spelled Kissi, but pronounced Gizi sounds a lot like Giti. And that African heritage, our spiritual beliefs, our customs, our traditions, our foodways, and our language come from those West Africans. And that, in an essence, is what Gullah Geechee heritage is all about.
Amazing. And if I'm not mistaken, the language is still spoken in those specific areas.
And it is very akin to the languages like the Jamaican patois. And also, if you were to hear, people from the Rice Coast countries, the Gold Coast countries who speak English, and many of these were colonized by Britain, but when they speak their languages, when they speak English, they sound almost like the Gullah Geechee that you'd hear in the southeastern United States. Some of the same grammatical rules, like the TH is substituted with a D. Words that are given with an STR would be substituted with an SKR. Street would be pronounced as street. Ask would be pronounced as axe. And for years during my childhood, even today for the most part, it had been considered that those who spoke Gullah Geechee did so because of thick tongues, big lips, or low intelligence, as a way of throwing shade at African heritage.
Wow.
But it took great skill for these enslaved people who had never spoken the languages of those with whom they had been enslaved and put on enslaved ships and on enslaved prisons, to develop a language that everyone could understand and that has withstood time. And as you said, is still spoken today.
I think that really just speaks to the resilience of our people.
It does.
Like you can literally just see our swag, like the way we talk. Like I didn't know that the way ask is pronounced like ask. Like I say that, and I didn't know that was in direct connection.
Heritage that's been passed down generationally. Yes.
Gullah Geechee speakers can code switch. We can speak Gullah Geechee, but at the appropriate time, we can speak English as well as possible. But that is what known as code switching. And that is something that is helped with the resilience or knowing for teachers to allow their students to know that they can speak a certain way in their homes, but in the environment, the work environment, it's best to be able to switch to speaking English more fluently.
Yeah. So even thinking about code switching, you both were great examples of what it means to show up authentically to the world, with your culture, with your heritage. And I wonder, did you ever experience that pressure to possibly conform to what TV was looking for, that to fit in a certain box?
Interestingly enough, one of the early directors asked Ron if he wanted a vocal coach. We're like, no.
Right.
Because this is Gullah Island. Why would he not want to sound like himself?
But at that time, I don't think that director was aware that this was a
real
program
thing.
Of a particular culture. Speakers in television and movies are to speak this unknown kind of, it's an unreal language. I forgot just what it's called.
They used to call it a mid-Atlantic accent. Yeah.
Correct.
But,
And that's what she was looking for. And I couldn't understand what was different about the way that I spoke, but she heard something different that she did not wish to hear. And at different times when I have done auditions for different movies, or that's this whole thing. Well, can you speak? Get rid of that accent. Can you? And I would not. Well, I don't necessarily hear the accent.
Right.
I've gotten older. I hear it. I think it's. But when I was younger, I thought, no, I don't. I don't know what you're talking about. But they was no, they can't use, because they were looking for a different sound.
Wow. Well, I'm here to say I appreciate that you all didn't take the vocal coach, because it meant so much seeing people who looked like us, who spoke like us on TV. It really did. I wonder, did that ever happen with appearance wise as well? Like, was that ever a conversation?
No, not really. It wasn't about our appearance. It wasn't. I mean, I was a full-figured woman. So, I got a little pushback in the wardrobe room the first year.
Okay.
But the second year, there was another full-figured Black woman running the wardrobe room from then on. So,
I love that.
I had to work through my own, and also, things like finding a makeup artist who, like the first season, the pilot, They had no idea. Ron told the makeup artist during the pilots, he said, James's legs are ashy. She went and put water on them. We're like,
no, that cannot be done.
That is not the solution.
No.
But the production team was really on top of making sure that everybody then that was involved with Gullah Gullah Island, they brought in Latinx, they brought in Black, they brought in that type of team surrounding us. And that made such a difference. So me being, a bigger Black woman.
And I being a dark complexioned person, they had to make sure that lighting was different, that worked well for me as well as lighter complexioned people.
Yeah, and they did. They were
good.
They do that. Yeah. So
that's
it was
amazing.
Positive experience. Yeah. I didn't feel any, and I had all the little locks and braids.
I remember the braids. I love them.
They asked me, it's like, what should we do with your hair? And I said, well, I did the Black girl thing. We're gonna be somewhere, we're gonna do. We need to braid this. And then we don't have a problem. And so I ended up going up to Brooklyn to Kemet Kinks. I don't know if they're still there. And they gave me that little pixie braid. I swear it felt like it took a week. But and so we got to be ourselves. And just a little aside, one day, some years after the show ended, or maybe the show had just about ended, a white woman and her little girl had come up to me. And the woman said, my daughter, she just loves you so much and she wants hair like yours. And I keep telling her, but your hair is pretty. And that was a mind blowing because I grew up with, you always wanted hair, like long, straight hair like theirs.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so this little white girl, she wanted hair like mine.
Wow.
I was like,
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I really think that speaks so much too about how you all influenced a culture that outside of our own as well, as a result of like showing up as yourselves, even, thinking about the children that you've impacted. Again, me at my big age, like I remember the songs. I remember, learning like the fungi, alafia, ashe. Like I remember that. Like I can still sing that today. And that really brought about a sense of.
While the show was in production, we would be in airports. There would be college, university students who would see us and who would tell us they skipped classes daily to watch the show.
I believe that. Like we woke up early in the morning in the summertime to watch the show. So I can see that. And it really played a role in like, our mental health and building self-esteem of Black children. And I wonder, like, was that intentional? Did you know the mental health impacts that you were going to have on this generation?
Oh, no, we had no idea what the would be, but we knew what we wanted for our kids. That's what we knew. We knew that there was nobody who looked like my daughter or our son that they could see on any consistent basis. And we wanted that. So, but we weren't thinking what will be the mental health impact, 20, 30 now years out. And I have to say that one of the blessings of being a healthy person in my senior years is that I keep meeting these amazing people like you who say, wow, the work that you did made such a difference in our life. And that's wonderful. We didn't know. We were storytellers and performers. And what we did know was that we dedicated our lives to telling the stories of our people. That's purpose. That's the purpose. That's what you do. That's what you do. And what I say now is that our family's motto is Sankofa. Everything we do is Sankofa. We knew that, but we had no idea how that was going to play out.
I love that. The fact that you all were able to and willing to kind of put yourselves out there, put your culture out there, and it made such a significant impact beyond what you were even imagining. It really speaks to the dedication that you have for the work.
But there were certain aspects that were just germane to who we were as parents or being the products of the communities into which we were born. During one of the early seasons, with the influence of the puppet characters, it seemed like the puppets were the ones who were handling all of the conflict. And the children, and we said, no. Well, we find that the parents are the ones that need to be utilized. During the first season, some of the production team, they had an issue with our being addressed as Mr. Ron or Miss Natalie, and just should be Natalie or Ron. No.
No, y'all, we don't do that.
You got
No, we don't. We don't do that.
And they follow through.
And so yes, the production team, they were always really responsive.
Okay.
Really responsive to what we shared about the culture and what we knew about our community. And in our community, you respect your elders.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we could not model something that we would not allow in our home.
Right.
Exactly.
And my children still love you. They're your peers. They're like, they still like Miss Barbara and Miss, Misty. But I do too.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm an elder, but there are people who are my elders.
Mm-hmm.
And when I address my elders, I give them a title. Unless they asked me not to.
Right.
I just
Exactly.
do. That is a cultural norm.
And
Mm-hmm.
to this day, if there are younger or much younger interviewers who address me as Ron, wait a minute.
That just made me cringe a little bit. Are they doing that?
Well, we don't know each other like that. One thing, it was in 2005, I participated in their historic trip to Sierra Leone. It's one of the Gullah Geechee homecomings. Halfway around the world, we were on a ferry to Bunce Island, which is one of the slave prisons where a number of Africans who had been enslaved last saw their homelands when they were boarded on ships from Bunce Island. On this ferry, because we were wearing our Priscilla's Homecoming, a Gullah Homecoming t-shirts, someone on the ferry asked the coordinator, not knowing it was the coordinator of the trip, is that Gullah, as in Gullah Island? And he said, why, yes. And the star of that show is right over there. And he came smiling, wanting to take a selfie with me for his 4 or 6 year old son. He was a Nigerian living in Germany who watched the show daily with his son. And he wanted me to know how much he enjoyed the colors, the people, the language of that show. It related to him so very closely to how he had grown up in his Nigerian home.
I love that. And, I know I keep talking about the impact, but I really hope that you guys feel as though you're getting your flowers today, because you certainly deserve them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
You received an email, something on social media recently from a young woman who had watched.
Yeah, this was a letter I got from a young white woman who grew up in
a Midwestern,
some very, very white place where she had never seen a real Black person.
Wow.
And she grew up, she and her little brother, in a very racist home. But they watched us every day. And she said, I watched you every day and I loved you. And because of you, my brother and I did not grow up like that. And eventually I was able to impact my parents. And I'm a teacher now. And honestly, it just makes me really, I'm like,
yes,
you don't know. You don't know. And so I think, so yeah, I'll just move quickly through that. That sometimes you do what you're led to do. And for us, that was this work. And when I will say that it wasn't always easy because people didn't actually understand what we were doing.
Mm-hmm.
We're telling these stories, even before Gullah Island, we're telling these stories and we're singing these songs. And there are people who are like, first, why are you singing all that old stuff? Why are you telling the stories about what used to be? And also, when we were pregnant with my son and they were like, we need to do something different, there was also the kind of advice like, well, okay, y'all have fun playing around now. Y'all need to just go get a real job, like with the jobs that we were often funneled into in the
Sure.
Black education, social work. There is room for you there.
Mm-hmm.
Want to do something good, then you go work for the system. And we were like, that's not it. We don't know what it is, but we know that's
Exactly.
Right.
And so to be here now to look and say the impact that we were able to make by not following that guidance is so much more than if I had just been sitting up working in DSS office, just waiting for my pension. And I'm not saying that's all that's done there. That's They do work. They do very hard work. But that wasn't our work.
Right.
This was our work.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a firm believer that, you know, that was your purpose, to tell these stories, to impact the lives of children throughout generations, throughout nations as well. I wonder, like, could there ever be a chance of there being a reboot, or? I would love that.
There very well may be a reboot, and if there is, we don't know anything about it.
Okay.
It's a Viacom product. Our son has expressed an interest in a variation of a Gullah Gullah Island type of show, and maybe that may come into being.
Yeah, he's done a whole what do you call it?
Like a Bible,
like a Bible, a press book, a thing on a variation of Gullah Gullah Island or Gullah Island. But so what he's thinking, like, you know how they redid the Fresh Prince?
Yes.
So for a slightly different audience, is more sophisticated. That's what he's playing with.
Okay.
And LA doing stuff. So who knows? Mm-hmm. What we told him is, we love you, Simeon. And he said, well, if I do it, you know, you're going to help, you're going to get involved. I will get involved to the level that you want me to. Because that's my son.
Yes.
Right.
Well, speaking for right. Speaking for, you know, the millennials out there, we would love to see that. We really would. So if it does happen, for sure. Do you guys have anything coming up, or anything that we can, you know, support you on?
We got stuff.
Okay.
We both have books coming out. So October 10th is when my book release. It's a children's book. I wrote it and illustrated it. It's called Okra Stew, a Gullah Geechee Family Celebration. It's published by Charles Holt imprint of Macmillan Publishing. So you can pre-order now in all the places where you can pre-order books. Tell everybody. So I'm really pleased and proud of that book. I am an artist. I'm a visual artist. And so I paint, I tell stories that way a lot. And so you can see my work here and there and there and there, but it'll be in this book. And Ron has a book coming out.
Yes, I have a book entitled Raptors in the Rice Lands. It's an historical fiction novel about a fictional Gullah Geechee community of Georgetown, South Carolina. And it tells about just the connections of Gullah Geechee and other African diasporic communities. There is a couple who wishes, it's a twist on philanthropy, and they learn different aspects about giving and the expectations of giving and helping and leaving a legacy for their children. That will be by Brandy Lane Publishing. The publication date has not been set. I've been told it will be this fall. And Natalie and I will be republishing several books that have been out of print for a while. And that includes the very first one that we began during our Sea Island Montage performance with. And that book was Reminiscences of Sea Island Heritage, Freedmen of St. Helena Island. Also Gullah Branches, West African Roots, which was a prequel, a sequel, almost 20 years later. Wow. It's the same way, but in that book, I tell about the songs. Well, I would hear these old spirituals during my trips to Ghana and Sierra Leone, and I use new lyrics to the tunes of these old spirituals, plus writings about the experiences, Gullah Branches, West African Roots. There's a children's book that we have self-published called Little Muddy Waters, a Gullah folktale about this mischievous little boy whose grandma kept having to remind him to mind your manners and do what's right. And also there's the Gullah Storybook, a counter for the numbers 1 through 10. So hopefully by the end of summer, early fall, those will be re-released. And also we developed a set, it's called Gullah Geechee Wisdom Cards, and that will come back into production also around the same time that these books are reintroduced.
That's amazing. You have a lot going on.
There's a lot going on. I was listening to him and I just wanted to lie down. I was like,
but I think that's just a testament of how much you all are doing for the culture. Like, amazing. So we have multiple books. We have like so many things lined up.
Yeah.
If you all don't mind, Miss Natalie, if you can email me the links to like the books and everything that you guys have lined up, and we'll put it in the show notes so that our viewers can watch.
I will do that. And I'll also share my website because I say I am an artist. I'd love folk to look. Yes. I have original art, but I also have prints, which folk may be interested in. So I've been doing we're fairly busy.
Yeah.
But we are busy absolutely doing what we're living in purpose. So we're living in
sure.
Purpose. So, there are days like today, Ron came out to my art studio and he was saying, have you done this and this? And I was like, so I spent most of today, I walked out of the studio and I sat on the porch and I watched the birds and the butterflies and all that. And that's what I did today. I sat on the porch and
I love it.
Get back into the studio. I have paintings to do. I have commissions to complete. And we have books.
And 2 years ago, I released 2 novellas. They're called my Geechee Literature series. The titles are We Wear the Mask, Unravel Truths in a Pre-Gullah Community, and Turtle Dove Done Drooped His Wings, A Gullah Tale of Fight or Flight. They're sold on Amazon.com and also my Etsy shop, Geechee Literature, and .com. And I have been baking Mr. Ron's Gullah-licious pound cakes.
I saw that on Instagram. I need a pound cake.
They're available at the Etsy shop. They're available.
I need a pound cake.
Yeah, that I have to say that was a definite courtship thing. He invited me out to dinner. I walked in the house and he pulled the cake out the oven. The whole house smelled like melted butter and sugar. I said, okay.
Okay. So I need Mr. Ron to teach these young men now how to court with the pound cakes.
Let me tell you, it's nice that you got a good car. I appreciate that. That's nice. Can you bake?
Can you bake? Can I get a pound cake out of this?
Can I get a cake out of this?
Right.
Natalie's father baked.
Yes.
I baked. So our daughter Sarah, when her grandmother spoke about baking a cake, she was baffled.
She's like, ladies don't bake.
Ladies don't bake.
And I held that true. I do not bake. I do not. Here's ideally food that I eat shows up when I eat it. Ideally, I have nothing to do with the production. I will pay for it.
Right.
And both of our children,
Sally and I are on the same boat.
They would go to, out with their friends, their homes, and oh no, that's box cake.
Yeah, they weren't eating no box cake.
And I remember, Mr. Ron, you baked on the show as well, right?
Yes, I did. Because that's one of the things that the creative team saw.
Yes.
And they followed us around.
Yeah, they really did just say, you be yourselves.
Yeah.
I love it.
Like big fat biscuits. They saw me baking biscuits.
He makes great biscuits. And he would bake them every weekend for the kids. There was the biscuits. And there was one biscuit that he called the daddy biscuit because it was the biggest biscuit. When you had all the dough left after you cut all the other ones, he would make one big biscuit, the daddy biscuit. And my children wanted the daddy biscuit, but he's the daddy. Yeah. But there would always be, and we get the daddy biscuit, the big biscuit. That's what they wanted.
I'm going to get in so much trouble. I'm supposed to be doing keto, which is low carb, but I'm going to have to get me a Ron.
I'm doing keto. I've been doing keto since January, which means I walk into the house from the studio and it smells like cake, but I don't eat it.
That's willpower.
Mm-hmm. But
that is willpower.
Do not think that I have not had my share of cake. Okay? We've been married for 38 years. 38 years?
That's right. This November.
Congrats.
So, I've had my share of cake. I have not. So you go ahead.
Amazing.
Before the keto.
I'm certainly going to order one of the pound cakes. I'm not joking.
It
was definitely.
If you can, came about because when I started baking for the public, that was after Gullah Gullah Island had ended. And I'd find the customers, they would tell me they would put the cake boxes below their beds or in their closets because the cake was for them. It was for no one else in their family or household. So we're like, oh, share a slice if you can.
If you can. That's how you know it's good. Awesome. Well, it was definitely a pleasure having the both of you today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Of course. It was. I'm sorry. Can you say that again?
I hope we didn't derail you,
No, this was a genuine conversation. I'm, talking to two of my heroes from childhood. So I'm good. This was a pleasure just to be in your presence. I'm really appreciative.
Thank you.
Yes, for sure. So if it's not too much, would you mind closing us out in the Gullah Gullah Island theme song?
we should have expected that. In Ghana recently, that was just last week, and Natalie had gone up on this suspension bridge. I'd been 20 years ago, so I didn't go this time. I was in the museum, and I turned the corner, and there was someone. She said, "I know you. Have you been on TV?" Yes. I said, what have you been on? And I said, Gullah Gullah. Yes, that's right. She'd just been telling her child about this show, this amazing show with people like us who, she was from New York, she said, and they need more shows like that. And of course, now could you sing? She wanted her daughter to take a picture. Would you sing this? And then so I said, well, go ahead. And she started, but you're not singing. She said, well, come and let's play together in the bright sunny weather. Let's all go to Gullah Gullah Island. Lot to see and to do there. All we need now is you there. Let's all go to Gullah Gullah Island. Just take your foot in your hand. That means hurry up and don't miss the good things that we planned. So come and let's play together in the bright sunny weather. Let's all go to Gullah Gullah Island. Gullah Gullah Island. Gullah Gullah Island.
Thank you so much. That was amazing. I appreciate the both of you from the bottom of my heart. I really do.
Thank you.
For sure. So yes, I will definitely contact you all regarding those links in the show notes, and we're here to support in whatever way we can.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. Absolutely. Thank you again for coming.
Okay.
The Enhanced American Express Business Gold Card is designed to take your business further. It's packed with features and benefits like flexible spending capacity that adapts to your business, 24/7 support from a business card specialist trained to help with your business needs, and so much more. The Amex Business Gold Card, now smarter and more flexible. That's the powerful backing of American Express. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/businessgoldcard.